Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Umineko When They Cry. So last episode, we met more people here on the island, right? Like Shannon, Natsuhi, and then I guess we learned also that some of them have issues with each other, right? For example, Ava, always trashing Natsuhi there. And then Natsuhi with the servants basically, right? She has like an inferiority complex, right? And it was nice for Shannon, I guess, when we saw her with the kids, basically, right, with the cousins. So that was a nice scene with them. And we also saw, or we learned, more about, I guess, Beatrice, right? They showed us a little bit of it last episode. So we are going to continue as we are in the dining hall. So the dining room, which looked exactly like you'd imagine a rich person's dining room to be, had a super long table that was obviously positioned with no purpose other than to make the guests conscious of their rank. Our parents were already in sitting accordance with that ordering.
遅いぞガキども。早く席に着けよ。
The old bastard pressed us to sit. The only gaps in that group of people were the spots we were supposed to sit, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the head of the table, called the incipient's chair, was for the most highly ranked reserved for the grandfather. It was still empty. He probably wanted to show up last for dramatic effect. Okay. It kind of happens though, right? In shows, everyone is there and they're just waiting for the lead person to come, the head, right? From the perspective of someone facing the incipient's chair head on, the seating order went from left to right, with lower ranking seats progressing in rows of two further away from it. So the left hand side of the first row, closest to the incipient's chair, was where Uncle Kraus should have sat, and since he was the second highest in rank, it looked like he hadn't arrived yet, so the seat was empty. Across from his chair on the right side on the first row sat the eldest daughter of the family, Aunt Ava, who was the third highest rank. And then the left hand side, the second row, was for the fourth highest in rank. There sat my damn dad, Rudolph, the third of the siblings. Across from him is Aunt Rosa, the youngest sibling. At this point, you might expect their husbands and wives to come next. But yeah, Jessica is next because Jessica is the daughter of Kraus. Opposite her was George Aniki. I sat next to Jessica, and then Maria sat across me. And then the spouses are the next one. Then finally next to me on the left hand side of the fifth row sat Aunt Natsuhi, the 10th highest rank. And then Uncle Hideyoshi. Dude, imagine that, right? Imagine that. You are the spouses, right, of the other ones, but you are in pretty much the furthermost part of the table. Opposite her was Uncle Hideyoshi next to Aunt Natsuhi in the 6th row, and the final seat on the left hand side, Kirie-san. The seat opposite to Kirie-san was empty, even though silverware had been set there and everything. According to this ranking system, the spot was where Aunt Rosa's husband should be sitting. So where is Aunt Rosa's husband? Yeah, we don't know who that person is right now. Even though he wasn't supposed to be coming, his place was made up. Normally, ranking systems of this sort give spouses equal positions as their partners, but the Ushiromiya family system was unique. Maybe it is a remnant of male chauvinism. If we start with the assumption that a woman's womb is just something to be borrowed, then the children of direct descent would come first, directly followed by the grandchildren. In other words, spouses have no blood ties and are therefore placed at the end of the line. It's terrible, but this system, my grandmother would be ranked even lower than me. Jesus. If she were still alive. In their youth, they obey their father. After they get married, their husband. After aging, their children. There's an old saying, women have no home in any realm. Oh my god. Long ago, when I was still incapable of figuring all this out, I thought it was so great that we could all chat in our little groups like this. Adult siblings with adult siblings, and cousins with cousins. However, now that I can re-examine the seating order, after growing up a bit, it stirs up some very complicated feelings in me. Aunt Natsuhi was married to the eldest son and was the de facto number 2, right? Sat to my right. Yeah, she's a de facto number 2 and she's been doing a lot, but in their family rankings, she's number 10, right? Which meant that she was 2 steps lower than me in the ranking order. It was hard to imagine what might be going on inside her heart. I mean, for other people, like they don't really mind, right? Like it doesn't really matter. It just feels what is the word? Demeaning? Is that the word?
お久しぶりですね、バトラ君。ずいぶん背が伸びましたね。
ああ、はい。食ったり食べたり食事したりしてたら、いつの間にかこんな身長に。
さすが男の子ね。身長はいくつくらいあるの？
Oh yeah, this is the first time they're meeting. Yeah, we just saw her last time with the other, what do you call this? Siblings.
180かな。つーかおばさん、そこは食べてばっかりじゃねえかって突っ込んでくださいよ。
え？ああ、ごめんなさいね。
After a short pause, she did laugh with me, but it seemed she couldn't quite figure out what she was supposed to be laughing at. Pretty much like a forced laughter, right? This woman is Aunt Natsuhi. She's the wife of the eldest son of the family, meaning she's my father's older brother's wife. It is simpler if I just call her Jessica's mother. Yes, it is much more simpler like that. It feels bad to say it like this, but while I didn't exactly dislike her, I didn't particularly like her. Maybe she's like very, I mean, we could see it last time, right? Like she is kind of strict, right? She hardly ever spoke with us kids, and all my memories of her involve her talking to the adults about complicated things with a scary look on her face. Like, I guess the amount of pressure she had, or she has, I mean, because of being Klaus, right? Klaus is a wife, I mean. In fact, since we hardly ever exchange words, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I should approach her, though my efforts seem to have ended in failure. The silverware sat there neatly on the table, but the meal itself hadn't been brought in yet. As a general rule, you couldn't start a meal until the person sitting at the head of the table had arrived. So as long as grandfather didn't come, lunch would be put on hold indefinitely. Not even the appetizers would arrive. Simply put, the silence in this room was caused by our parents enduring their hunger while they waited for grandfather to arrive. However, the grandfather from my memories would always show up on time to meals like this. He was the kind of person who would never be so late that it kept everyone waiting, especially after the entire group had arrived.
遅えな、じいさま。俺の記憶じゃ、時間に厳格な人だったと思うんだけどな。
まあ、6年前はそうだったかもな。最近はそうでもねえよ。というか、もう自分の世界オンリーって感じで、会食にも顔を出さねえぜ。さすがに今日くらいは足並みを揃えてくれるって思ってたんだけどな。まあ、私は来ない方が気楽で嬉しいけどよ。
ジェシカ。
When her mother scolded her, Jessica stuck her tongue out and looked away. No way around it. Might as well wait until our host arrives. When I glanced at the clock, I saw that it was almost 12:20. Okay, there he is. Kinzo Oshiromiya Kinzo, the aged family head of the Oshiromiya head family. Kinzo, okay. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. You couldn't really say that he was having too much fun to stop, rather he filled the room with a sense of impatience or perhaps a sense of impending danger, as though every second wasted was a tragedy. In the sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with a stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Those odors were somehow sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they do would be to open a window and ventilate this room.
お父さん、お父さん。
The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. A voice calling "Father" sometimes mingled with the knocks. As Kinzo heaved a deep sigh, he snapped shut the old book in his hands and slammed it on the table. Then he yelled at Krause, who was still knocking on the door.
やかましい！その音を止めぬか愚か者！叩けば扉は開かれると誰が教えた？そのバカ者は貼り付けにしたぞ。お前もそうされたいのか？
お父さん、年に一度の親族会議の日ではありませんか。皆下に集まっています。どうかおいでください。
Krause called out to his father through the door. Kinzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Krause had no choice but to call him from the corridor like this.
私にかがうでない。皆とは何か私をここから引きずり出そうとする者どもなのか？ならば殺してしまい！バラバラにして薪にして魔女の炉にくべてしまい！その炉には鍋をかけて苦い重木を煮るがいい。黙示録の煮汁はそれでも私をここから連れ出そうとするバカ者どもに飲ませてやれ。残りは酒につけるのだ。ああ、源氏はどこだ？源氏を呼べ！苦界の魔師を用意させろ！緑の妖精のささやきが届かぬ！ああ、源氏はどこだ！源氏を呼べ！
Dude, that voice actor is insane. On the other side of the door, Krause, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. So this is Krause, okay.
すっかり嫌われてしまったようだ。もう私の声では何も届かんよ。
Krause shrugged as though saying it's no use and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really expected his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was his duty of the eldest son, he tried it as a formality.
金蔵さん、あんたの顔を見に息子や娘や孫たちが来てるんじゃないか。ちょっと顔を見せてやったらどうだね。うるさい、黙れ！私に意見するというか何条？貴様など呼んではおらぬ。私は源氏を呼べと言ったのだ。さあ急げ、すぐに呼べ。時間は常に有限だ。人たちはすでにラッパを構えているぞ。なぜにそれがわからぬか、愚かな羊どもめ。
Kinzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket clearly expressed his great displeasure. Kinzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open as if to sing a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled,
なぜだ。なぜにいつも私には邪魔が入るのか。すべてを捨てよう、すべてを捧げよう。その見返りに私は一つしか求めないというのに。ああ、ベアトリーチェ、お前の微笑みをもう一度見られるならば、私は世界中から美少を奪い取り、すべてをお前に捧げよう。おお、イナゴの軍団長たちよ、世界中から美少を刈り取り収穫せ。ああ、すべてが汚らわしい、すべてが煩わしい。なぜこの貴重な一日に私は邪魔を受けねばならぬのか。源氏を呼べ。
何を怒鳴ってるのかもさっぱりだな。もう頭がどうにかなっているのだろう。
クラウスさん、実のお父さんにそりゃあんまりじゃないかね。
親父はすでに死んでいる。ここにいるのは親父だったものの幻さ。いずれにせよ本人にここを出る意志がない以上どうにもならんね。
金蔵さん。
and he's smiling, right? And he's like, oh, if he dies now, I'm gonna be the head now. Choking coughs continue to pour from the study.
私は下に戻る。ゴーダの自慢のランチをこれ以上無駄に冷ましてしまうことはない。親類たちにとって当家での数少ない楽しみだろうからな。
Krause spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as though he had wasted time doing something he knew would be in vain.
源氏さん、親父殿がお呼びだ。相手を頼む。
かしこまりました。
南條先生、食事に行きましょう。いつまでもここにいるとこの甘い匂いで味覚までおかしくなってしまう。
Without waiting for Nanjo, Krause went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go and eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Krause's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, then let out a deep sigh.
すまんが源氏さん、頼みます。
はい、お任せください。
お酒はなるべく与えないように。あれは常習性が強すぎる。源氏はまだか。何者が源氏を阻んでいるというのか。源氏はどこだ。源氏を呼べ。
Dude, how does this voice actor pull this, right? Imagine him, him doing this while recording. Oh my god, it's insane. Yeah, the voice, where does he pull it from?
さあ、ここはお任せください。
Like, definitely doesn't speak like this normally, right? But it's insane how voice actors are extremely good, I mean.
すみませんな。
Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave and then knocked on the study door.
親方様、源氏でございます。
源氏か。何故私をこれほどに待たすのか。そこには誰もおるまいな。
はい、私だけでございます。
Kinzo returned to his seat in a study and pressed an old-fashioned switch on the table. After a small delay, the heavy sound of the door unlocking could be heard. Kinzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study. Or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some air and ended up scattering things that to him were important research materials, leaving him in a terrible mood. Kinzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission and thereby sealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. If Kinzo was in a bad mood, even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door, unable even to see Kinzo's face. And most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it just wasn't worth the effort to disturb this aging family head, who was impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave the room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants.
Genji, いつものやつを頼む。私は忙しい。
はい。
Was he gonna give him alcohol? Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious looking bottles boasting venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being some ghastly poison. Inside the study, the mysterious collection of books gathered by Kinzo had grown into a mountain. They were bizarre, ancient, or banned books, all of them either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. But if you tried to call them old books, Kinzo would fly into a rage and call them grimoire. There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regards to black magic, like candles, suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a certain celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects or bizarre diagrams of various magic circles. And above all, sweet poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. So yeah, I just noticed that there's also a a portrait of Beatrice there, right? Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside the study, Genji prepared Kinzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex and ornate glass unless someone first told them it was alcohol. He poured a little into the glass. Then he placed a cube of sugar in a strangely shaped spoon and poured water from a pitcher over it. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green liquid turned a cloudy white. It was a strange optical illusion, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then Genji added original flavors Kindle Love, fine-tuning its taste. There was no recipe. Its success was measured by only Kinzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Genji placed a glass on a tray and then walked over to Kinzo. Kinzo by this time was gazing out the window.
どうぞ、親方様。
ああ、すまん。
Kinzo had regained his composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence. To allow Kinzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kinzo and to his left as though he were a living sideboard. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kinzo held out his glass. There was only a mouthful remaining. It wasn't another gesture intended to set it upon a tray, but a motion to hand the glass over to Genji.
飲め我が友よ。
もったいないお言葉です。
私とお前の中に儀礼はいらぬ。飲め友よ。
いただきます。
Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its content. So yeah, he cares much more of Genji rather than his son. Krause, his eldest son. After that, he gulped it
お
down.
前が作るのを真似ているのだがどうにも同じ味が出ぬ。
But yeah, I guess because, yeah, Genji has been here beside Kinzo all these years, right? All these decades.
お前が作る方がうまい。
ありがとうございます。親方様のご指導の賜物です。
But yeah, Kinzo's outfit is kind of like, what do you call this? When you're graduating, right? What do you call that again? But something like that. Kinzo smiled at his loyal subject who refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed as though chuckling at a close friend's old unshakable habit.
互いに老いたな。年を数えることも忘れてすでに久しい。
今日まで過ごすことをお許しいただけたのもすべて親方様のおかげでございます。
Kinzo gave a faint smile as if to say he didn't need any flattery.
今日まで本当によく私に仕えてくれた。息子たちは誰もが私を変人呼ばわりした。大勢いた使用人も皆私を恐れてやめていった。お前だけが今でも私に仕えてくれる。
もったいないお言葉です。
私の余命もそう長くはあるまい。息子たちは私の遺産がいつ転がり込んでくるかをうろうろ待つハゲタカばかりだ。クラウスの愚か者は金を湯水のように使い、1枚の金貨を売るのに2枚の金貨を捨てておる。それで金を稼げたなどと妄言を。エヴァは金の亡者だ。あやつは私を鶏か何かだと思っておる。死んだらガラにして出汁まで取る気だ。
Hey, look at this. Krause is a fool who squanders money like water, who throws away 2 gold to obtain 1, and then Eva is a slave to money, who thinks of me as a mere chicken. When I die, she plans to use my bones to make a broth.
ルドルフの間抜けは女遊びばかり。
That dunce Rudolph just wants to fool around with women.
ローザはどこの馬の骨ともわからん男の赤ん坊など産みおって。
So yeah, basically he doesn't like all of his children.
ジェシカは無能で無学だ。
Jessica is incompetent and uneducated.
ジョージには男としての器がない。
I mean, George has been good though. Yeah, George has none of what it takes to be a man. I guess what he's saying is like to be, what do you call this? Like iron-fisted type of man.
バトラーは後ろ宮家の栄誉を自ら捨ておった愚か者だ。
Then Butler is a fool. Yeah, threw away the honor of the Oshiromiya family because he lived with his grandparents on his mother's side.
マリアなど見るのも汚らわしい。
Maria is obscene to the eye.
なぜだ、なぜに後ろ宮の血はこうも無能なのか。
So basically, yeah, he thinks of all of them as failures.
私の築き上げた栄光を受け継ぐにふさわしい者はおらんのか。 ああ、分かっておるとも。これがベアトリーチェの呪いであることも分かっておる。黄金の魔女め、それが私への復讐のつもりか。憎みたくば憎むがよい。逃げたければ逃げるがよい。逃がさぬ、逃がさぬ、逃がさぬ、逃がさぬわ。お前は私のものだ。常に私の腕の中でなくてはならん。私の生涯のすべてなのだ。我が鳥かごにて永遠に私だけにささやき続けるのだ。ベアトリーチェ、なぜに微笑み返してはくれぬ。ベアトリーチェ。
Oh my god. That guy is insane, man. Honestly. Oh yeah, after howling, Kinzo choked once again. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this.
すまぬ我が友よ。
When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Kinzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing two different people, a wild Kinzo and a composed Kinzo, living together inside one body.
故に私は決心した。このままぼやききった余生を怠慢に過ごすことなどもはや耐えられはせん。この身に最後にとするコインがあるならば、それを悪魔たちのルーレットに託してみたい。魔法の力はいつもかけるリスクで決まる。日本古来の呪術である牛の国参りがそうであろう。7日間儀式を目撃されてはならないというリスクを支払うからこそ魔力が宿る。困難なリスクが生じれば生じるほどに魔力は強く生じるのだ。神話に登場する数々の奇跡は天文学的リスクに奇跡的な低確率を得て成就した驚愕すべき魔力の結晶なのだと言える。モーゼが海を割ったのは神の奇跡ではない。蹂躙の計りに乗せられ軍勢によって航海に追い詰められた絶体絶命のリスクが奇跡の魔力を生んだのだ。同じことが同じ規模で繰り返されようとも再び海が割れることはないだろう。なぜならモーゼは力ある者たちのルーレットの麻生木ナユタをかけたよりも多く存在する目の中に一つだけ刻まれた奇跡を見事引き寄せることができたからだ。その天文学的確率に勝利できる力、そう、奇跡をつかみ取る運気はすなわち魔力なのだ。強大な魔力を得るためには絶望的なリスクを背負わねばならぬ。魔力持たぬ者はそれを賭けでなく自暴自棄と呼ぼう。しかし真に魔力ある者はその奇跡をつかみ取り神秘を成就させるのだ。もしも私にその魔力があるならば私はその奇跡をつかみ取るだろう。生涯を費やした願いを実現できるだろう。
Kinzo looked up to the sky outside the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the skies.
もし私にその奇跡を手にする資格があったなら、おー、ベ アトリーチェ、ベアトリーチェ、お前の愛くるしい笑顔をもう一度だけ見せてくれ。どれほどの月日を経ようともお前の面影が消えることはない。ただお前の美少が見たい、それだけだ。お前から授かったものを全て返そう。あの日からの栄光を全てお前に返そう。富も名誉も黄金もいらぬ。お前に授かった全てを返そう。私はただお前の美少が見たいだけなのだ。五章だ、ベアトリーチェ。
His nonsensical yells became a scream and then a wail. Like, I guess for all the riches that Beatriz gave him. Like, I guess maybe he didn't feel happy, right? In the end. And then that's why he was like, he's screaming there. He just wants to see Beatrice, I mean, one more time. Kinzo slumped to the floor, staring at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentation. But yeah, I felt his pain, man. I felt his pain.
当主様は具合が優れられないとのことだ。せっかくこうして1年ぶりの会合に集まってくれた諸君と昼食を共にできないことを非常に残念にしておられた。ゴーダ、ランチを始めてくれ。
かしこまりました。それでは本日の昼食を始めさせていただきます。
南條先生、そんなにお父様のお具合は悪いの？せめて顔くらい見せてくれてもいいわよね。
体調というよりは機嫌ですな。こればかりはつける薬がありませんので。
おいおい、機嫌ってまたかよ。そりゃないぜ。こちとら秋のクソ忙しい時期にスケジュール都合してご機嫌伺いに来てるんだ。それをよ。
よかったじゃないか、ルドルフ。ご機嫌は伺えたんだ。それとも不機嫌な親父殿を私に代わりお前が説得して連れてきてくれるのかね。
まさか。
Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though Rudolph was willing to be indignant at how self-centered his father was, he wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting.
夕食までにはその機嫌治りそうなの？クラウス兄さん。
そんなことは知らんよ。親父殿に直接聞いてみるといい。もっとも声をかけない方が機嫌の治りは早いと思うがね。
源氏さんだけだよ、じい様の機嫌を直せるのは。
Yeah, Jessica got her dad's what do you call this? Smirk, the smile.
情けないぜ。自分の親の機嫌を使用人に直させるんだからよ。
ジェシカ、余計なことは言わなくていい。
She'd planned for her complaint to be heard only by her cousins, but it had to reach even Krause's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking.
機嫌がうんぬんってことは病状はそんな悪くないんじゃねえの？元気がないってんならともかく機嫌が悪いってのは少なくとも気はしっかりしてる証拠だぜ。
おじい様は特に強い気力をお持ちだからね。でも体が必ずしもそれに伴えるとは限らないよ。去年からずっと余命3ヶ月って言われ続けてる。最初の診断が正しいならおじい様は気力だけで流らえてるってことになる。気遣ってあげないといけないよ。
Lunch started with the family's head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old, and a brilliant glory which had been revealed the Urashirimiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning the meal with the seat still empty, no one felt it was that odd anymore. It cracked again. But yeah, man, like Kinzo, that whole scene with him was really good. You can feel the emotions of that character. That's why I like voice acting, like in anywhere basically, because yeah, when the voice actor is really good, they can show it. It's insane. You can feel the emotion there. Urashirimiya Family Conference was held once every year on that first weekend of October. Oh, sorry. Hey, if a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect it to be nothing more than a reunion of rarely seen relatives who'd greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to the grandfather's children, and no one in this family was considered an adult until they had met with a success in business. So this meeting literally was a conference. How much of the fortune was invested? What sort of business was conducted? How much profit was earned? As a result, how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid? Or possibly how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures? What lessons had they learned, and what could they learn from their mistakes? It seemed that topics like this were discussed very seriously in the past. My dad said it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently, it used to be a very serious family meeting where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices, and some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that had become a thing of the past. Now, with everyone pursuing their own business ventures and achieving success, it was becoming more of a normal yearly get-together. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely stressful. So, while it was nothing more than a simple get-together for us grandchildren, it was still a real stomach ache for our parents. The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste much more delicious. The phrase, "while the demon is not around, everyone can relax," comes to mind. Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting to my father's left is his older brother and Jessica's father, Uncle. The name sure is easy to read. Kraus. Now that we've gotten used to the string of weird names, our perspective is totally skewed. So Kraus doesn't actually seem that bad. It even starts to sound kinda cool. But yeah, always when shows or movies, like a powerful character, always a name sometimes. When you hear the name Kraus, Klaus, always a head figure, a boss figure, a leader, right? Something like that. Just like with Aunt Natsui, I didn't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He had never been one to chat to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsui. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and a violent man. If what he said is true, Uncle Kraus used to be very domineering from his position as the oldest sibling, and was despised by all other siblings. Though, despite that, those siblings all seemed to be chatting happily together. Oh well, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and live apart from each other, their relationships change. I wonder though, maybe they're kind of like this because yeah, the father is dying. Basically, when he dies, of course, yeah, most of it is gonna be on Kraus, right? Like most of the, what do you call this? The riches, I guess, right? So the other kids, the other siblings, are trying to be good now, I guess, right? That's probably what this was. After all, they all had children of the same age. By sharing the same family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents begun to discuss the exams Jessica and I would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape questions about exams from my father on her left, purposely faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments, not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the end of the opposite from Kraus and the others. In the very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with a sturdy physique sat facing Kirei-san. This was my first time meeting him. I had only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. I heard he used to own a huge clinic on the nearby island of Nijima, but he turned it over to his son and began living a life of leisure in his old age. He had known grandfather since the very beginning. When the mansion was first constructed on this island, he had built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first that the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's auspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually grandfather's chess partner. I see, that kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, what with his love of all Western things. Nanjo's probably the only person who could enter Rokinjima despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as he listened to the discussion between Kiri and other women who sat near him. Okay, considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside of the Oshirimiya family attend the family conference was a little odd. It made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it'd be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about it, but considering how rich grandfather is, at the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid. Yeah, that's why most of them are here, the parents I mean. And it'll lead to ulcers for everyone. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. There's a good chance I'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference. That's why they're being so good to each other. Still, it's not like it got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't shown up, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting in that incipient chair is Ushirimiya Kinzo. It really sucks. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got this perfectly a normal one himself. If only his name were written Kinzo, but let us call him Goldsmith or something. I'd totally freak out. As you can probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. I'm one of his grandchildren, not a son, and I haven't seen him since elementary school. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself, but our parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go convince grandfather to come down seems pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can really tell grandfather's story without covering the pivotal event back before the Showa era. Until the Meiji and Taisho era, the Oshirimiya family was great and prosperous. Okay. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double over laughing every day as the money kept rolling in. So the family is really rich even back then, I mean. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of a branch family and had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down in the list of people who could inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in 1923, the mansion owned by the Oshiromiya family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Oshiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Oshiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kinzo and his branch family. In Kinzo's later reminiscence, he referred to this as a good fortune so great that it overturned fate. With that, grandfather's boring everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the dying Oshiromiya family, which had lost nearly all of its wealth. However, just because he had been entrusted with this task didn't mean he could accomplish it. Apparently those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all of his family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails, as collateral in order to borrow a massive amount of money. Once he built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping onto a neighboring bike and then another one, just like some crazy street performance. I'll bet everyone thought grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of a powerful connection with the occupying forces. At the time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in the business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very, very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information, not luck, saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about emergent demands that would be made for the Korean War. No, it was more than that. He must have been predicted those emergent demands from the very beginning when he started investing his money. The history books made it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off their emergent demands during the Korean War, but that isn't actually true. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. I'm pretty sure this all happened during the 1950 or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in 1924, so 26 years. That means grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Oshiromiya family in only about 20 years, a level even higher than it had even before. With that, you'd think he'd revive the main family in Odawara, but for some reason he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something that you can ordinarily do today. However, grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine research base. He acquired this island as a business property, then tossed the project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. And that is smart. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and having the sponsorship of the GHQ meant that nobody could oppose him. From what I heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered his land to him practically for free. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinzo to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under-the-table bribes did their work well. In the end, the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune and his own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was obsessed with all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. He was able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built on this island soon after. This mansion, in fact, grandfather, with his love of the Western style, made this once an inhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams, overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, and a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint on. This would be a dream come true for any boy. After that, he made good use of his huge fortune, becoming a large stockholder in the extremely stable and iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just by using the dividends. Well, he is just that incredible. That this kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least that is how they're portrayed after the fact. But grandfather denies all of that, repeatedly saying he was blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric when locked up alone on an island, where all his dreams are made real. Everyone knows that he had a Western obsession from the start, but none of our parents really know when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love for black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? Or did his miraculous stretch of good luck while reviving his family cause him to feel a mysterious power in himself? At some point, a grandfather began the research of black magic, or began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his study with up in suspicious books, chemicals, magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. From what I've heard, those around him warmly watched over him, figuring that someone to achieve success in life had the right to do as he pleased, but there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking that's disgusting. I don't want to get involved. Anyway, the agitated period was an age of big gambles, with both opportunities and risk. Let's say grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like a chess piece from the mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere happily talking behind his boss's back. No, not in a fancy dining hall like this, more like at a table in some bar. Then again, I'll bet his family conference would be a whole lot more relaxing if that were the case. I mean, if he didn't become rich, you wouldn't have a family conference. Okay, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch.
前菜の刺身のサラダで俺はすでに確信してたね。幸田さんは大したシェフだぜ。しかも魚は近海で取れたやつだろ。スーパーの刺身とはわけが違ったぜ。おいおいよせよバトラー。育ちがバレちまうだろうが。
Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs.
僕も仕事の都合で珍しいところで食事をすることもあるけど、それらと比べてもこれはかなりのものだよ。合田さんは多分その道じゃ少しは知られた人だったんじゃないかな。
よくは知らねえんだけどよ。老舗ホテルでのれん分けだか派閥の分裂だかややこしいことがあってよ。そのトラブルで辞めざるを得なくなっちまったんだってさ。それでその時偶然おふくろが使用人の求人を出してたわけなんだよ。
As Goto removed the empty plates, he began to recount his own bumpy past without losing his smile.
世の中というのは難しいものです。しかしそのおかげでこうして今日後宮家で再び料理人として腕を振るう機会を賜ることができました。 大勢の方の笑顔も嬉しいですが、お仕えすると決めた限られた方々にだけ喜んでいただくために繊細なお仕事ができるのもとても楽しいことでございます。これもすべて機会をくださった奥様のおかげです。
Goda-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsui.
応募のあった中でゴーダが一番腕が良かったからです。客観的判断に基づくもので市場はありませんので感謝には及びません。
Why does Aunt Natsui always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might leave a different impression. Shannon-chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a serving cart.
失礼いたします。
それでは本日のデザートに移らせていただきます。
Goda-san and all the others laid the beautifully adorned dessert out in front of us and all. I guess it's true when they say you have another stomach for dessert. I thought I already filled up on a delicious food, but as soon as I laid eyes on the dessert, my stomach started yelling, "More!" I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. Normally, during a high-class meal like this, you're supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to strict rules like that, so she got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Aunt Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, "No, it's okay."
こっちの酸っぱい。こっちの酸っぱい。バトラ、こっちのは外れ。
Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauce.
なんだと？当たりと外れがあるのかよ。よし、俺も味見をしてやるぜ。
Apparently one sauce was sweet and the other was sour. Despite it being bad manners, I always stuck my little finger and licked it. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I'd have suspected lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us.
シャノンちゃん、この酸っぱいのは何のソースだい？
Shannon-chan hesitated to speak. Maybe her job was just to set a table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seemed pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. Or did they use some ingredient that we'd better off not knowing about? While Aunt Natsui made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache, Kumasawa-san, who was setting the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle.
何の材料を使っていると思いますか？驚きますよ。
全然わかんねえぜ。というか、熊沢のばあさんがそういう笑い方すると不気味でならねえぜ。で、何なんだよ、正体は。
内緒ですよ。お耳を拝借。
Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught Jessica, George Aniki, and of course Maria also put their ears closer.
この酸っ ぱいのはですね、実はお魚のサバの絞り汁ですよ。
サバ？
That's crazy. We all thought horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely.
ほう。サバは酸っぱいよ。絞ったらこうなる。
When Maria started clamoring that mackerel were sour, the adults were unable to contain their laughter.
違うわよ。酸っぱいのはしめ鯖でしょ。
Whispered to Maria that mackerel is sour only once prepared as shime saba. And now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me too in all sorts of ways when I was young. The most lethal has gotta be that one. Those flimsy black things in Chinese dishes. They are kikurage mushrooms. She told me that they were penguin meat and I went all around the school like I'm a smartass telling everyone, didn't I?
熊沢のばあちゃん、相変わらずだな。マリアが信じちゃうだろ？
冗談ですよ。今からゴーダさんがソースの正体を教えてくれますからね。
Goda looked a little put off about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason. But after clearing his throat once, he introduced the dessert to us.
それではデザートのご説明をさせていただきます。本日はご来賓の皆様が大層お気に入りでございましたバラの庭園にちなみまして、パンナコッタをローズガーデン風に仕上げてみました。散らしてございますバラの花びらは当家の庭園より先ほど採取してきたものでございます。ソースはストロベリーとローズヒップの2色の赤をご用意しました。ストロベリーの甘味とローズヒップの酸味を交互にお楽しみになってください。なお花びらは観賞用となっておりますので、避けてからお召し上がりくださいませ。それではどうぞお楽しみください。
Man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading the detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. As Goda-san elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously, should you call him subtle or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in front of the rose garden earlier today, he displayed an incredible and timely awareness by just adding a few rose petals from that garden. This combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you just get used to it and bored halfway through. But if you reach the sour sauce at that point, you'd get a vivid taste. And then once you return to the sweet sauce, all the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with an unenjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt that way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of her seats, someone praised the taste and his presentation.
いかがですか、奥様。
相変わらず見事です。お客様をおもてなしするに値します。
恐れ入ります。奥様、ご存知ですか？ローズヒップには頭痛に効く効果もあるそうですよ。奥様に特にお気に入りいただけるかと思い、特別にご用意させていただきました。
そう。ありがとう。
ほら言ったでしょ、夏姫さん。ローズヒップは頭痛に効くって。
みたいね。聞くといいんだけど。
ああ、合田さん、あんたには惚れるで。なあ、後であんたの待遇を聞かせてや。無理ならあんたの欲しい年収指立ててくれるだけでもええんやで。あんたの腕がこの島だけで独占されとるのは人類の食文化に対する冒涜や。その腕わしの会社で振るってお客の皆さんを喜ばせてみる気はないかのう。
秀吉さん、うちの合田を引き抜かれるのですか？これは困った。合田の待遇をもっと良くしないと引き抜かれてしまいそうだ。
そうした方がいいわね。じゃないと引き抜かれて3食が熊沢さんのサバ料理にされちゃうわよ。
これは手厳しゅうございます。すっかり根に持たれてしまいまして。
Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that her parents had long since got used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had a precious nutritional value, which could slow aging, make people smarter, and more. Supposedly, while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it'll prevent aging on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory.
それでは失礼いたします。夕食にはふるってたくさんのサバ料理をお召し上がりいただきますので、どうぞご期待くださいませね。
期待してるよ。今晩はしめ鯖でキュッとしゃれ込みたいぜ。
それは素敵ね。ついでに日本酒の美味しいのも出てこないかしら。
ええ、ございますよ。六軒島名物のサバ焼酎なるものがございまして。
Kumasawa-san, together with Shannon, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Goda-san, who looked like his show had totally been stolen, explain in a serious voice that we would be having calf steak for dinner.
熊沢さん、さっきはありがとうございました。
As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply.
なんもお礼を言われることなんてありません。
Kumasawa-san may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Butler had asked about the dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard pressed for a response, was always suffering because of this small weakness. If only Shannon had a little of the craftiness needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Goda, her life would have been easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature, her inability to gloss over a mistake and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come over to her rescue.
さっきGenjiさんが午後のシフトに変更があるとおっしゃってましたよ。確かシャノンさんは夕方までお休みがもらえたと思いました。羨ましい。
すみません。シフト表を確認していませんでした。
そうそう。 オーブンでこれからちょっとサバを焼こうと思ってるんですよ。できたらお休みの前にちょっと手伝ってくれると嬉しいですね。
はい。喜んでお手伝いさせていただきます。
To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants. Okay, so yeah, we'll take a break there. Do we get anything, by the way? Very long chapters this game has. Large Japanese numbers is only right. Man Okucho Kei Gai. Okay. So that's the only thing. We Kutsatsu from last time. But yeah, dude, that was an amazing what do you call this? Amazing scenes that we've seen. Especially with Kinzo there, right? Dude, I can't wait to learn more of the story. Like, oh, they're very, very happy right now. But you can see like some of them are just, yeah, kind of like faking it. Especially the parents there, right? For the kids, it looked like they, hey, it doesn't really matter to them. Like Jessica doesn't really care, right? But for the parents, it looks like they're, maybe like the other ones are sucking up to Kraus, right? Because he's gonna be the head. And then, yeah, pretty much Kraus is just doing all of this because, yeah, he's the head of the family. I don't know, head and the heir, I mean. Pretty much a formality. So, yeah, when Kinzo dies, he's gonna inherit pretty much everything. And then the other kids, the other parents are like, oh, we need to be good to him, right? A lot of fakeness with them. But let's see what happens next episode, right? That I can wait. I like the story. Yeah, I like how it's building up, and we have a ton of characters in this one. Comparing the characters, for example, to Higurashi, right? Like the core was always like, yeah, Keiichi, Rena, Mion. Yep, all like those kids, right? But for this one, it's insane the amount of characters they have in this one. You don't just have the kids, you got the parents as well, you got the servants as well. A lot of them, right? So a lot of things can happen, right, in this one. But yeah, we are gonna find out. So we are gonna continue this and do more of Umineko When They Cry in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye bye.